The title is If I Were the Beast of Revelation. If I were the beast of Revelation, I would convince the churches that prophecies in the book of Revelation were for some future date, and they would have no need to be concerned about them. If I were the beast, I would tell them that they could build a new golden age without God. I would teach them to trust in politics and the imagination of their own hearts. I would build on the past by first taking God out of the schools and out of the churches by teaching them that they can now rely on mankind to give them everything they need for all of life by trusting in psychological counseling and psychotropic drugs. I would teach them that science and technology would lead them to a new era that would define the universe, the spiritual realm, and humanity, giving them the answers for all of life. If I were the beast of Revelation, I would teach them to embrace artificial general intelligence, even allowing it to be integrated with their biological bodies. Step by step, I would teach the entire world to accept and depend on these new disciplines of psychology, science, and technology by using public education, movies, videos, news media, and social media that would reach into every area of society. If I were the beast, I would select one nation to pioneer every form of lawlessness and perversion that would be acceptable to the masses by taking God out of the equation. I would lead them to change laws and introduce their perversions in public education, especially among the innocent children. As lawlessness and perversion spread throughout the world, the beast would take advantage of the growing frustration and resentment among the people who call upon God. If I were the beast of Revelation, I would pretend to recognize two genders, male and female, solidifying my position with the right. If I were the beast, I would amplify the division among all the people in the great society by rising up those on the right to overcome all the evil and the horrific policies in society by essentially destroying the other side. If I were the beast, I would raise up a team that would think and act in unison. They would fulfill all the demands of the beast to demean the other side, decimating the Democratic Party and their hard-left allies. If I were the beast, I would lead the left to fight back with protests, lawlessness, and corruption, and the federal judges. This will become their undoing, and the beast will grow even stronger. If I were the beast of Revelation, I would bring forth great hope of a new golden age of peace and prosperity. Propaganda would be at its best, showing a level of excitement beyond anything seen before, which in time would overcome every media outlet and every dissenting voice. If I were the beast, I would remove the bureaucracy and save trillions of dollars by discovering fraud and abuse. If I were the beast, I would become a party of righteousness, saved by the hand of God from the assassin's bullet. If I were the beast, I would attract all the spiritual leaders to support my agenda and rally their followers to follow my every move. If I were the beast of Revelation, I would fulfill my every promise to the masses, garnering both their support and trust in my political agenda, leading them in time to praise my accomplishments with great enthusiasm. If I were the beast, I would engineer a new coin base to replace the old money system, which would give me more direct power and control over the people. It would make it easier to establish a universal basic income for all those willing to follow. If I were the beast, I would advocate for advanced artificial general intelligence that could be integrated into the population for the distribution of the universal basic income, a new form of education, and psychological control. If I were the beast, I would assemble the best fighting team with the latest technologies to garner worldwide peace through strength. If I were the beast, I would establish a safety net of the best technology, giving citizens extended peace and security. I would allow them to concentrate on building for the future with no thought of any consequences for sinning against the holy God. In time, I would lead the population to show gratitude, bordering on the praise to the nation's leaders and the beast of Revelation. If I were the beast, to demonstrate righteousness, I would expel the gangs and criminals, But I would embrace the migrants if they would be willing to have an implanted tracking device. Then in time, I would also embrace all the law-abiding migrants by replacing their green cards with an implanted tracking device. After a substantial amount of time, the tracking devices would seem harmless for the entire population, especially now with the ability to buy, sell, and receive their universal basic income. Technology would not only make this much easier to award benefits and income to only those who deserve it, but it would also immediately cut down on the abuse and fraud, bringing great praise from the population. If I were the beast of the book of Revelation, my goal would be universal worship from everyone contrary to their religious beliefs. The ultimate goal would be praise and worship from not only those claiming to be children of God through Jesus Christ, but also from the nation of Israel. If I were the beast, I would seek their acceptance among the Muslim nations of the East, offering both peace and prosperity. If I were the beast, I would support the building of the third temple, making Jerusalem the capital of the world. If I were the beast, my goal would be to sit in the temple and be worshipped as God by the entire world. Technology would be a great help by producing the image of the beast, able to speak and cause all those who refuse to worship the beast to be killed. If I were the beast, all the borders of the Holy Land would be reestablished from river to the sea. There would be peace and prosperity, making it once again a land flowing with milk and honey. If I were the beast in Revelation, my goal would be to garner the worship of all of God's people contrary to their beliefs. No matter what the beast of Revelation does, nothing will change the prophecy. The wrath of God will continue to pour upon fallen humanity, and the nations in the east will continue to prepare for Armageddon and the eventual downfall of the beast and his great nation. Although the beast will continue to explain away every plague and woe from God as a natural disaster, it will not change the hearts and minds of his faithful remnant. They will continue to stand firm, only putting their trust in God. They will have already come out from the fallen world by refusing any kind of mark, even with the promise of a universal basic income and protection from the lawless. They will assemble in small groups in the same way that the early Christians escaped from the wrath of the Roman Caesars. They will hold tightly to God's prophecies, believing that he will come back in his time to judge the beast and deliver them to a new heavens and a new earth that will never pass away. They will pray continually and sing the old gospel songs with great faith in their hearts. The faithful remnant will be among the first to recognize the beast from the book of Revelation.